I'm David Marsh. Welcome to Exploring the Human Journey.
Exploring the Human Journey.
These days, I just show up. I used to do clinical hypnotherapy, but that shifted. So now I show up, I talk to people. My gifts of the intuitive ability have really shown up. So I just get in front of people. I tend to know things about them before they open their mouth. I'm very empathic, so I'm picking up on a lot of things. We do the coaching, intuitive coaching. Then we go to the table. I step into their energy field. I bring a little bit of hypnotherapy in, a little bit of energy work, but I'm stepping into their journey with them, and we're moving things around together. It's the knowing, it's the flashes, it's the empathy of the feelings. Everywhere I go, I'm picking up feelings everywhere. And that was overwhelming at first, but now it's a beautiful tool because now I have an understanding how to use this operating system that I have. So I was the little kid who grew up in a very dysfunctional family, super loving family, but a lot of dysfunction. And I was the baby, and I was the one who was walking around trying to save everybody. I didn't quite know this at the time. I just showed up, and everywhere I showed up, I came with a loving heart, but I also empathically took on everybody's stuff. My brothers and sisters both tried to commit suicide a few times. There's a lot of pain in the house, and just kind of figured out how to navigate through that. So I'm aware that I have people who are, or beings that are offering me information. So the more I open up, the more things just funnel in. I am saying things that are here before I realize what I've even said. And many times I'm saying it to a client, and I'm saying it to them, but I'm like, oh, this is actually for me also at the same time, because we tend to attract clients who are very much similar where we were, where we are, where we're going. So as I'm saying things which I don't even know, it's like, oh, I got it. So I'm hearing it here, or having an understanding of what's coming out here. I'm fortunate with my setup. I have one foot in the hippie world, I have one foot in the corporate world. So my whole intention is to be the bridge between the two. Because if I go to a corporate person and say, you know, hey, let's go get naked and play bongos in the jungle, they're not gonna go. If I say to this person, we need to go sell all these things, get dressed, they're not coming over to this side. But would you like to get in tune with your feelings and actually get in tune with your customers? Sure, come this way. Would you actually like to be able to put food on the table? Come this way. Let's find some middle ground in between. Let's meet in the middle. There's intelligence on both sides. So what I know about the spiritual world is just show up. We are enough as we are. When we just show up, we bring in all the gifts that we have, all the gifts that we've had before, all the gifts we're stepping into. They all merge together in that same bridge I was talking about before. We just show up with everything that we have. We have intelligences that come with us that we aren't even aware of. So if we're there and we just show up, we're in the exact moment, at the exact formula of who we are in that moment.
Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm so glad you joined us today. My special guest is Michael Anthony. He is the spiritual health coach, and today we are going to have a good time. Michael, thanks for showing up today.
Thank you very much. It's a wonder to be here.
So what I love is with your feature video, you talk about just showing up. How do I be? What am I supposed to do? I don't know, my intuition. And sometimes we get caught up in that. Right. I have to do it right. And you're like, dude, just show up. Just be here.
Just show up. I always use the example that if we were here right now and someone came in, either broke their leg or something, most people don't have the background to handle that. It's like, okay, we're going to be here exactly here tomorrow at 10 a.m. This is what's going to happen. I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on. If we're sitting here right now and the door opens and someone just falls in, we're going to spring in action.
Yeah.
Someone's going to go in and grab them, just hold them for a second. I'll call 911. Yeah. We just show up the best we have. Yeah. And who knows, maybe they have something that we know. But we just need to just show up. We come with so much more than we think we do.
Yes, and that's what I love about your work is you're letting people realize, hey, you're okay. You're on a path. You're on a journey. It's not about perfection. It's not about checking off the list to make sure you got it all right. It's about being present. And what is it that your journey's about? So people reach out to you and they I love how you put the dichotomy of the business person and then the hippie. You said you've got the best of both worlds. In your line of work, you come across all different people, all different types of business versus the free spirit. How do you integrate this human experience with all of this?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up 20 miles from New York City. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't in the city, but I was always connected to the city. And in that area, you can feel it. It's right here. Yeah. But I also grew up in the woods behind my house. I spent a lot of time in nature. So I feel like I do have that one foot in nature in the hippie world, and I do have one foot in the corporate city world. Yeah. And I burn sage. I like meditating, but I also like going into the city. I like being in civilization still. Yeah. So I'm just bringing my own pre-designed package into the world, and it allows me to connect with so many different people, which is a really beautiful gift. Yeah. I'm so thankful for that.
Spiritual health, that is a thing that a lot of times we go to the doctor to get our physical health checkup.
Sure.
We might go to a professional to get our mental health checkup.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping people get their spiritual health checkup.
Because even when you're feeling sick, you find out your daughter has a baby, this light comes in and you don't feel all the stuff that's happening, all the aches and pains. So if we can get in tune to igniting that inner light that's already lit, but maybe it's a little tiny pilot light, we need to crank it up. That's an important piece amongst all the others, the physical health, the emotional health as well. So if we can bring that piece up, that allows us to build off on the others. Mm-hmm. So it all works together.
Mm-hmm. Now talk about sensitivity. You said you grew up in a dysfunctional family. It was a loving family,
Very
but
loving.
There's a lot of craziness going on.
Sure.
And you found this compassion, you found this empathy within you. You were the peacemaker kid in trying to make sure everybody was having their, okay, I'll try to solve these problems. Tell me about how you grew up in that.
So just growing up in this family, again, very loving, but everyone's struggling quite a bit. And grew up in 1970, and it's kind of still prevalent today, but back then we're fine, everyone's good, we're good, we're good. You go behind the scenes and there's just a mess. Even in the house, people are like, I'm good. A mess even deeper than just the front door. I just connected to people. I knew when they were happy, I knew when they were sad. I just loved the connection. So I always just showed up, always put my hands on people all the time. I always had to connect and touch, but just always tried to come in. I was behind my own mask too. But I came in with humor, jumping around, big smiles, big hugs, always just coming in. My mom went back to school for nursing. She was a housewife, and she finally went back in her 40s.
My mom did that too, late 80s. She's like, I'm going to college. I'm like, whoa, so am I.
It was the most amazing thing she did for herself.
Yeah.
But I remember when she was taking the tests, it's hard work. And she hadn't been in school in 30 years, if not more. I remember just going in. I was 8 years old, 9 years old, and I'd just sit with her while she's studying, because there was times there were tears, or I'd just put my hand on her, I'd rub her back real quick.
You felt that?
I just felt she was struggling with something. It was hard because she was also trying to take care of the family the best she could. So those are the memories that I have growing up, just being around, doing my best to connect with people, while also being the bridge when people argued. If I can try and get in like, okay, let's come here. I see your side, I see your side. That's the Libra in me. I'm Virgo Libra cusp.
Trying to find that balance then.
The Libras, I see both sides to every situation.
So that's I've got two kids that fall under that astrological sign.
Okay.
And you just see how I'll watch them have a conversation when they both have opposing views, but they're like, how can we come to an agreement here? Right. It's a really interesting thing, people that are drawn to that balance.
It's beautiful because we have all of them. I mean, we have the pain in the ass. We have the beautiful person. I see a stage. And we all have the same characters, but the character comes up in the spotlight, and that's the appropriate time for that person. But sometimes we have all these people fighting for that same space. Sometimes being that pain in the neck or pain in the lower posterior is perfect to go in, because you might need to get something done. If someone is pushing your child, you need to stand up. Yeah. You need to get in tune with that anger. There's an appropriate place for it. Yeah. But when that person's job is done, it's like cut, and the person still wants to sit in the spotlight. That's the issue. We have it all, though. So when I talk to someone, even if they're arguing with me or having a disagreement, I usually can have an understanding where they're coming from. And, sometimes that works because the person doesn't always want to be told from the person who's arguing with them. But so it helps me usually dim my fire in that aspect. If I have some anger, oh, okay, I have an understanding where they're coming from. But it's really helpful when you're working with other people, though.
Yeah, when you're able to listen to them and not have a judgment against that, and you give people space. I when we were creating that feature video, I got to observe how you just gave space to her, and she was having it, and then you're like, consider this thought, and then you'd have an intuitive hit, or somehow you'd give her some information, give some presence to that. So it's, again, there's so much that's happening, and we have an old story that usually tunnel visions us into something. And when we're in this little tunnel, we don't really see what's happening out here. That's what's really beautiful if you can break the cycle yourself by putting yourself up on the screen. We all watched the movie. We're like, oh no, kiss him, don't do this. Oh, you did it again. You're yelling at the screen. If we could put ourselves up there, we're like, I keep doing it again? Oh, okay, no, I don't want to do it this time. It's just opening that tunnel vision so you can see what the other possibilities are. Yeah, I love that. So you can have that outside perspective. I like the idea that you can fix somebody else's problem because you're objective about it. You don't really care preference one way or the other. But you look at your own life and you get all tight and you're like, oh, but I have a preference against this and I want that. And if I fix that, I have to, you get all tight up in yourself. Well, it's an interesting thing.
we don't fix people.
Yeah.
We help them move some stuff out of the way so they can see themselves from a different perspective. That's my whole goal, is to help them see themselves. If I'm telling them things that doesn't really help, I can offer them new perspectives. And if they, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Oh.
For myself, a few years back, I was having an argument with a girlfriend, and I was like, you know what? I've had this argument with every girl I've ever dated.
Oh.
This has nothing to do with you. I'm so sorry. It just hit me flash. I'm like, oh, this is the same thing. This is my stuff. I'm the one consistent. We've been dating for a few months, but I've been dealing with this issue for many years.
Wow.
So I kind of started to catch myself quicker on that, much quicker. I try to bring some awareness into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more awareness you bring, at first it might be an hour later or a week later. But the more you start to work on the awareness and be open to it, you start to bring the cycle down. So at one point it happens right after, like, oh, I can't believe I just said that. Then it happens in the moment of decision. Then it starts happening earlier, like, I'm headed down that old path again. Okay. So just bringing some awareness in, putting yourself up on the screen, watching your own life from a different perspective.
Yeah. Oh, man, because those cyclical things do come around.
Oh, they keep going round and round and round, right? They may have different marbles in the cycle that are making the noise,
yeah,
but it's still the same cycle, which is us.
So as a soul going through this journey, we have things that we're going to want to discover and experience and explore. And it doesn't mean that you need to have a perfect way to do it, because there's no such thing.
No such thing.
Sometimes your soul has to experience something really messy so you can experience something. I was reading a book. It's really an interesting book about pre-birth planning. It's called Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz.
Right.
And he talks about people that come here and they have an addiction. They have a heroin addiction, an alcohol addiction, or they have something that they're trying to work through. And their soul has to have this pathway of darkness so it can learn to come out of that and have a love for themselves, or how to transmute that fear, or how to have the connection with the divine. But to have that, you have to have lost it.
Right.
And there's these beautiful things that when we realize that people are in our lives or ourselves, we're here to have an experience. It really sets me free from a lot of those, things that have kept me so tight.
There's an interesting thought about the co-creation aspect. So we come in with something, the universe, God, whatever we phrase it, life offers us something. It's like getting in the river. The current comes in. We could just go with the current and wherever it goes, or we can put our oar in and respond and co-create with what's coming in.
Oh, I love it.
So if something comes in that's messing us up, we don't have to just say, this is life.
Yeah.
We say, this is life right now. What can I do, and how can I step in?
Yes.
And sometimes there is a little bit of surrender. And that's literally sitting down in where you are, because then it allows something else to show up at the same time. Because when we get in that river current, we're just going, and it's the same river current over and over again. If we're just like going, we're not being present with what's around us at the same time. It's the same thing with that awareness. So put your oar in, do your best you can. That current, if you need to be over there, that current may come and take you. But maybe you don't need to go to the shore. Maybe you just need to go around the rock in front of you.
Oh, it's so good. I was doing a guided meditation with Daphne, and I was a guest on our show in a previous episode. And in this guided meditation, she said, okay, imagine you see a stream. And she said, maybe you're the stream, maybe you're the rock in the middle, or maybe you're the fish observing this entire process. And I remember being in this just beautiful imagery, and it was deep 30 minutes into this guided meditation.
Yes.
I was just relaxed and I was in it. And I'm like, wow, I don't have to pick one. No. I could find the angle of I'm in the flow, or I'm that steady rock, or I'm something else observing the entire thing. And, we get stuck into this, it's got to be this way, but there's different ways to view it.
Right. Well, actually, in that example you just used, it's almost as if all those pieces predetermined got together, and as they got together, the grid system of energy that they create is what you need to be in.
Wow.
So it's all of that together that creates this new environment. Even the frog off the side of the stream, maybe he's holding some space on some level that he's not even aware of, but there's some little recipe creation that's coming through.
Yeah.
And the other thing, that A to Z thing, people go, it's got to be A, it's got to be Z. Truth, this is the Libra in me. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Find the balance.
That doesn't mean it's M or N. Maybe it's G. Maybe it's, W, but it doesn't always have to be this to this. So when we have this experience, what do? We automatically want to go to this experience when this one doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we need to head in that direction, but we just the thing that is right in the middle somewhere.
Oh, that's really good. I like how you're also tuned in with your intuition, and you'll get those intuitive hits, and you'll begin to ask people some questions.
Right.
Kind of give me some ideas of how you utilize that. I mean, it's not, you can't teach intuition, but you can tell people how to kind of get in contact with them.
Sure. So we're animals, right?
Yeah.
So the birds fly south for the
Some
winter.
are more like ape-like than others.
But we are animals. We just have a sophisticated way of talking in a higher brain structure.
Yeah.
But animals fly south for the winter, right? They just know. Why wouldn't we have instincts as well? Why wouldn't we get an intuitive hit of something that comes in? I always say when it comes in, it's like a best friend or a friend who comes to you all the time. Hey, I need your advice on this. You give them advice, they don't listen. 10 times in a row they come in, they give you advice, you don't listen. By the 10th time, you're like, just go do this.
That's right.
But if they start to listen to you, or at least they take your advice seriously and they actually thank you for your time, you're more open to giving it. I feel like it's the same way with the intuition.
Ooh, that's good.
When you get like, oh, get a little piece of gum. I don't want gum, but maybe you're going to eat something with Italian food, and the girl or guy of your dreams is right next to you and you have garlic on your breath.
Yeah, that's right.
But the more you listen to the little ones, the channel starts to open up more and more. And then bigger things start to happen that actually can guide your life in the moment. I learned that lesson when I was leaving my house. I had contacts at the time. I had an intuitive hit to get eye drops. I'm like, I don't need eye drops. I got in my car, turned on the car, the air conditioner came on. There was a dust storm the night before. Dust just blasted right in my eyes. I'm like, where's my eye drops? And I was like, okay, I'll start to listen now.
Yeah, that context has been so active so many times in my life. And it's usually like when I think I should get the eye drops and I don't do it, it's so many times it's been in that negative context of like, I wish I would have listened. And now as I begin to grow and develop, I'm starting to be like, oh, those are the intuitive hits. I used to, in a religious context that I was raised in, I was told that was the Holy Spirit. You know, always listen to the Holy Spirit. Now, I can still use that same verbiage, but the Holy Spirit can be that higher self. It can be, you know, that guidance. It doesn't have to be this three-tiered system of over divine being. You know, it can be part of that spiritual connection.
Well, if we're made in the shape of God, why wouldn't we be God personified?
Yes, and you just put that antenna on the right channel.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Even I remember when this whole situation opened up for me. I used to listen to CDs a lot when I was driving to work. I'm from Jersey. I'm a Springsteen fan.
Yeah.
So I went through my Springsteen phase, which is probably around about 30 years now. But I was driving in, and something said quickly turn on the radio. I was like, oh, what? And I was literally 50 feet from work. I was like, oh, hit it. Another band that I really liked, which didn't tour for years, was suddenly touring in Long Island, and here was the commercial for it. And I never heard the commercial again. So I was like, oh. And I went and bought tickets and went to the show. Not life-changing, or who knows?
And that was the best concert you'd ever seen. It was Tiffany, right?
It was Tiffany, yes. Yes, exactly. I went backstage.
That's good. What were some of the, actually, I'm curious, what were some musical influences you had growing up?
The Beatles.
Yeah.
And I tend to go more towards Paul McCartney because he's more of the empathic aspect of things. And that's not to say John isn't, but John wrote for more of a little bit of the angst aspect.
Yeah.
So, which we all have as well.
A little bit more of the rebel fist up in the air.
Exactly. I was coming from the more open-hearted space. Believe it or not, Whitesnake, which is really interesting because we had a
Tony Catan on the car, baby.
Exactly. But before that, even because we had a foreign exchange student who came from Germany, and he came to live with us in the early '80s, and I was maybe 10 or 11. But Whitesnake has been around for years. Originally, they were an offshoot of Deep Purple. So they've been around since the early 70s.
Did not know that.
And they already had like 20 albums. To the point where in Europe, Ozzy would open for them.
Oh, wow.
So he brought all this music, which was very R&B, like low, like let's get down here, bass type music. And I listened to that in years. And then Springsteen, the writing aspect. But I found something really, really interesting. I would see David Coverdale, Whitesnake, and his music spoke to me. Springsteen spoke to me. Then one day I just looked. Actually, my brother came and said, oh, today's Coverdale's birthday. And I was like, oh, it's my birthday. Oh. Interesting. And I looked up the next day and like, oh, Springsteen's birthday tomorrow. Oh. So I was like, I wonder if there's some interesting, like astrological little bit of a makeup that we share on some level. Wow. Because I heard an interview with Joan Jett the other day. And she was talking. I'm like, man, she's got to be a Virgo. Because she sounds just like me. Looked up line. Oh, we share the same birthday. So who knows? There seems to be something in that, you know? So, yeah.
How's your songwriting coming along?
So not so much the song, but I'm doing a lot of writing. Thank you for asking that, though, because that's somewhere back here. And then watching A Star Is Born last night, that kind of put something out. But the writing in general, there's many different projects I have going on. And I find that's the best way I show up when I actually sit down and write.
Yeah. So you have this coming up in you. You can feel it. I like how there's a writing seminar called the Tom Bird Seminars.
Oh, sure.
Tom, he does them all over the place.
From up north, though, right?
He's in the Sedona area.
Okay, yes.
And he talks about the divine author within
Right.
and finding that connection. He said universal consciousness wants to download information, and it's looking for people that have the experience it can impart information to.
Right.
And so when you feel that, he's like, that's the divine author within. And he talks about just turning your mind off and turning your intuition on and letting the writing flow, whether you're writing by hand or writing on the keyboard.
What's an interesting thing, when I go down to write, things are coming so fast that my fingers can't keep up when I actually go to write.
Yeah.
So I literally have 3 books started right now.
Oh my.
One's got like 40,000 words, one is like 2 chapters, and one is a screenplay, actually, I should say.
Nice.
So
wow. Okay.
So there's a moment where this is going to come through, but
you can feel it. See, I so identify with that because I have stuff within me, and
right.
you know, I have a movie set to music that I you know, have things within me, so I feel that. But it's just a matter of sitting down, doing the discipline, letting it flow,
right,
finding the time to fit it into
Sure.
the busyness that we have.
Well, I'm looking at making some changes in my life right now, which actually open a space to make a consistent creativity space.
Yeah,
because I didn't always think I was creative. I was like, oh, I don't paint, I don't write. This is earlier. I don't write.
We
I
all
don't
think
sing.
painting is the way to be creative.
Exactly,
don't we?
right.
Yeah.
And then I just started writing. Like, I did some poetry. A girl challenged me to write a poem, and I wrote, and I was like, oh, 80% of this is garbage. There's like 3 lines in there
You
that
found a thing in there.
I found something. I was like, oh, there's something there. And I started writing more of that. And then I would write emails to people. And people would come back like, those are the most amazing emails. And I was like, oh, well, because it was just coming from a heart space. I wasn't thinking something would come through and I'll just write this thing out. And it's vulnerable, especially in the beginning when you start opening your heart. And you show people that you have a heart. And maybe you say things in a softer way, you package things differently, and here you go. Because there is on some level that the young child in me wants to know things are safe, wants to know he's loved.
Yeah.
So when I got in tune with that piece of myself, that's why I started sharing with the world, because the internal creates the external. So if I'm internally offering it up, that allows the external to offer it back to me as well. So people would come back to me and would offer these, like, work colleagues would say, oh, that email was really beautiful. Wow, it really moved me. It's like, oh, okay. And I really wasn't writing about work, but just something I shared experience. So that started moving things, and then I started really getting in tune with writing and just putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard.
Yeah. In Conversations with God, Neil talks about if you want to have something in your life, you need to give that away. He said, if you want to be a teacher, then you need to teach people how to do whatever you have that. If you want love, you need to give love away. If you're looking for that monetary abundance, you need to be a giver to help somebody else. You know, it could be as easy as giving somebody $10 to have lunch or whatever that thing is, but you need to give away that thing that you're looking for.
Right, it's beautiful. And that book means a lot to me. And I didn't read the book. I listened to it on audio. But before that showed up, my mom had read it. One of my best friends had read it. My sister had married a person who was much, much older than her. And he ended up getting sick fairly early. He had emphysema, and he had like 7% of his lungs, the air available to him. And one time he called the house, and I was home, and I picked up, and I had a really good connection with him. But we all knew he was on his way out. And he was actually staying around longer than we thought. And he was telling me in a kind of frenetic tone about how he's going to take the kids to Disney World and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not going to happen. Right. And then I had a conversation with him, maybe 3-4 months go by. I'm at the house again. No one else is home. The phone rings, and it's Paul, my brother-in-law. And he wants to speak to my mom, and like, mom's not home. And he was so calm. So calm. And he said to me, you know, your mom gave me a really beautiful gift. She gave me this book, Conversation with God. And I just finished it the other day. He's like, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. Your sister's going to be okay. And he died 2 days later. After hanging on for 6-7 years of just this pain for himself and everybody else in the family. Not so much me and my family, but my sister and the kids. And it was just such peace he had. And so almost like as soon as he closed the book, he came to this conclusion that everything's just as is and in order and peaceful. Yeah, it was a really beautiful experience. And I wasn't there by accident. I was the one in the family who could hold that space and connect with him and not try to rush him off the phone. Just be there 100%.
That's beautiful.
So thank you. It was very beautiful that I was there for him, but it was such a beautiful gift for me because it was right when things were clicking and opening up.
Starting to feel it.
When I came out of the spiritual closet.
I
When
love
everything
it.
just switched.
Yeah.
And then it was just another little brick in my foundation where that wasn't an experience I forgot. That was an experience that was like we walk by a brick building, you see all the same bricks, and you see these little random odd colored bricks.
Yeah.
So this is one of those random odd colored bricks, but it's glowing in my foundation.
Yeah.
It's just one of those stories that I really, it gets me right there.
Yeah, conversations with God was so important to me because it gave me that foundation. I was given the Bible was the only truth, and I was given that narrative. And as I began to search for another narrative, I'm like, there's got to be something better than this judgment and this simple heaven or hell, conscious eternal torment if you don't get it right. When I came across Neil's writings, it was through a podcast that somebody had said something, did an internet search, and I went to YouTube and I was like, well, maybe there's something on YouTube. I found that I could hear the audio tracks on YouTube, and I thought, well, I could buy the book, but it's on YouTube. So I should have bought the book, because the comedy here is that I played the YouTube in my car, and then I took a trip to California and took a trip back while I was streaming the whole time.
Yeah.
And sweet lady Gail told me that our phone bill was $700.
Okay.
Yeah, just buying the books, it was like $30 to buy the books. So there's volumes 1, volumes 2, volume 3, and recently this last year he came out with volume 4. So
okay, wow.
So
yeah, I listened to it on the way down to North Carolina from New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I had 10 hours there and 10 hours back.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was then able to purchase all of the volumes 1, 2, and 3, and now 4. And it's a lot less expensive than trying to stream across your phone. So the conversation with God's basically on my iPhone in a loop in my car. If I'm driving around, and sometimes I'll get that tense feeling like, oh, I don't know what. Oh, just flip it through, boom, turn it on. Boom. Helen Burstyn, Ed Asner, they're doing the voices of God, and then Neil talking with me as he's reading through the material.
What an amazing
Beautiful.
job. Yeah.
So that was, for me, that's a pivotal, defining moment in my journey, for sure.
Which is funny because I listened to it after he'd passed on the way down to North Carolina.
He didn't pass.
He did pass.
Neil Donald Walsh?
Oh, no.
Okay.
My brother-in-law.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought you meant, don't say Neil's dead, because he's not.
No.
So sorry.
Neil's thought some more work here. Yeah. But it was going down to see my family before I moved out to Arizona, which was everything that shifted for me. Because even coming out to Arizona was such a divine bolt of lightning that I didn't see coming at all. It just showed up. I had back surgery back in around 99.
Oh, my.
And I had a divorce. I tore a muscle in my back wrestling when I was 13, and always played sports, and my back would always hurt after, but chiropractic, massage.
I wrestled when I was in junior high school, so I get it,
Yeah.
You're a tall guy to be a wrestler too, so imagine you were always kind of going down towards the mat on guys. Yeah.
I was very lean too. Yeah, because I was like 155, 170 at the time.
Wow, yeah.
But I had this experience where I went through this divorce, and like most people when they go through divorce, they go back to the gym, start working out again, and
get that revenge body.
Yes, tweaked my back, and it's like, oh, same old. I'll just go to the chiropractor, and it didn't get better. It started getting worse and worse and worse. To the point where I had to go to work every day and lay down on the ground. I lost all feeling from my waist down.
Wow. I
tried for a year. I spent money that I didn't have on treatments that didn't work. And finally, this beautiful person back east, the chiropractor I worked with, who's so in tune to all of this, was like, it's time. We tried everything. Had the surgery, came out of the surgery, started getting panic attacks. The body still wouldn't respond. 3 hours a day, 3 times a week for 6 months. I did physical therapy. I was only doing like 5 pounds I could lift on my leg.
Oh my.
The neurosurgeon said, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Not sure of the panic attacks. I don't know why your body's not responding. Someone suggested hypnotherapy because I did everything else you're supposed to do. The antidepressants, I went to the psychologist, nothing worked. Hypnotherapy went in right away. I was 28, went right back down to the 7-year-old trauma that I didn't tell anybody about. Cleaned that up through hypnotherapy. Body responded. Panic attacks went away. But I discovered someone who did energy work after that point because I realized my back was hurting again a little bit. Celestine Prophecies talks about energy work. All right, let me go find someone. Found someone right over the border in New York City, in New Jersey. Went in, got on the table. She did the energy work. The second I got off the table, my entire life was different.
Oh.
Instantly shifted. The next day I was going to Arizona to visit for one day. I wake up, the grass is greener, the trees are greener, the sky is bluer. I'm like, what is going on? And I'm so calm. I'm going to Vegas. Arizona for one day and then Vegas. And I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm going to Vegas. I'll see you guys later. I was just so calm. Get on the plane. I start seeing orbs over people's heads. I'm like, what is going on here? The second the wheels hit the ground, I had this epiphany that I was now home. This overwhelming feeling. 11 o'clock at night, looking out the plane, I can only see the runway and the lights.
Yeah.
But I suddenly know I'm moving to Arizona.
Oh, wow.
So I packed up. I went to Vegas, came back to Jersey. Some things showed up, just literally picked me up and carried me out here.
So you felt that draw.
Oh, it was the most unmistakable thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before is when things started opening up for me. So I went from having a good life to having the most amazing life. And everyone's like, why are you leaving? Your life is magical out here. I'm like, I don't know, but I have to go. I don't know, I have to go. And I came out and it just was very magical when I first got here. All these amazing things happened. And then I remember I was going to take my first Reiki class. I'm so excited. Got up and I'm driving. All I knew, I was right by the 51 in Camelback. I only knew it's a grid system, the 51 and a grid system. I go to the 51, oh, it's closed today. Okay, grid system. I'm going on the other side of the mountain, Camelback. But my road leads right to Camelback. I don't know how to get over there. So I missed my class.
Oh,
and I sat on the side of the road just sobbing, like, no, it's not supposed to be like this anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. So then it was an interesting thing. It was like I leveled up to an area and I had this experience. And then it was time to have some more hardship to level up again. I didn't win. I thought I won the game of life. I'm like, oh my God, this is how life's going to be. I think of something that shows up right in front of me.
Oh, that's good.
But then I started having other experiences that were smoothing off my rough edges.
Yeah.
And I learned so much more about myself these last 10, I've been out here 14 years now. And it's been an amazing, amazing adventure. A lot of beautiful moments, tough moments as well.
Yeah.
But when you have the awareness, when you go through those tough moments, you get through them quicker and you bring the wisdom with you.
That's so good. Nobody wants to go through the hardship because that doesn't feel good. But it's interesting to look back and see how the dots all connect. You're like, oh yeah, I totally see that now.
When you think of when you felt like you're in your weakest space, if you turn around and look at your weakest space, you see how strong you were in your weakest space.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I was so weak back then. Did you make it through?
Yeah.
I did. So do you think you're strong enough to make it through? Well, I guess I was. Look at it again. So I'll actually have clients stand up and I'll actually have them turn around and face their past.
Oh, wow.
Like look directly. Let's imagine you're there and look at that spot and tell me how weak you look and how strong you feel at the same time. And I'll work them through something. And I'll have their inner child come out. If there's any pain that's left there, we'll talk with the inner child and bring that up too.
Do you incorporate hypnotherapy in your sessions with people?
So I used to do just clinical hypnotherapy. And at some point I realized other gifts were opening up. So I do intuitive coaching. I'll sit down and talk to people. Then we'll get them on the table. I'll step into their energy field. Some hypnotherapy will come in. We'll reframe some stuff. We'll do some past life regression type work in a present tense, having them anchored here, bringing them into the space. So the hypno has its tools in my tool belt. But I realized when I went to my old tool, it looked different now. So I'm using that old tool in a different way.
Yep.
So I'm still learning about all this. That's why when we talk, it's about just show up.
You just show up, yeah.
Because something comes when we just show up. Some wisdom comes with us, or we are the missing piece to the piece that's over there. Like Lennon to McCartney shows up. They're both great by themselves, but when they showed up together, they made magic. So when we need to just show up, something happens there.
Oh, that's so good. You were telling me about manifestation, and you had a really fun way that you had connected a few stories.
Yeah.
So there's people that are out there like, nothing right ever happens to me. And, we get into those pity parties.
Yeah, sure.
And I love the presence that you give about sometimes things are just manifested. Sometimes it feels like you're getting help. Other times these are just the decisions that you've made. So give some presence to the stories and the journeys that you have experienced.
So one of the ones I always love to tell, because it was my first time of really understanding how this worked, is I was in college and my dad sent me an envelope and I opened it up. There was a Playboy calendar, which is nothing like my dad.
You're like,
I think he probably found it along the way somewhere. But when I opened it up, the girl on the front cover who was dressed, I opened it up and I just saw her face. And I was like, oh my God, she's beautiful. Like it moved me so deeply and had a visceral reaction, like it took my breath away kind of thing. Like, oh my God. I was in college. I lived with, I don't know, 8 or 10 guys at the time. There were so many people coming through that house. Guys, look. And they gave the typical young male.
Woohoo, yeah,
let me see so-and-so.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. She's beautiful. I kept coming back to this really basis of open-hearted, like childlike wonderment. Because I didn't see her as a sexual being. I saw her just as this beautiful thing. It's almost as if you're with a little child and then someone walks by and they're like, oh, it could be a horse. It could be a beautiful woman or a man or whatever it is, but something, a little child sees Superman walking by. It's like, oh, that kind of thing. And that's how I reacted. This is at the time when Married with Children came on. So Fox was a new station. I was
Yeah.
watching Married with Children. And a commercial came on for a monster truck show that was rolling through town.
Yep.
Monster truck show. Girls want a date with Bud Bundy.
In a giant mud pit. Yeah.
But I was just sitting there and it's like, guys, want a date with Brandy Downs. And another model too. And I was like, Brandy Downs, why do I know that name? Wait a second. And I quickly ran the calendar. I'm like, that's a girl. Hang on. I called the radio station at 1.
What?
So here I am 2 weeks later, I'm eating dinner with her.
Oh my God.
So there was just, it was an interesting thing. Big round table. It was her, it was this other swimsuit model, and it was like the 7 or 8 sleazy-ish type salesman for the monster truck show.
Oh.
So here I am in this like very innocent empath.
How
showing up.
old about were
I was
you?
20.
Okay.
So I remember because I
Oh
couldn't
my God.
even drink, but
Yeah.
I had a drink there. Like I was so afraid, like, are they going to card me kind of thing?
You're like, bartender. You're probably nervous.
But when I look back though, it's a childlike innocence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times we'll try to manifest something, we'll get it, and it's like, I need this to pay the bills, I need this for this reason, I need this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Fine. Take out the frenetic, frazzly part.
The fearfulness.
And just go to the part like, oh my God, I would love to have this in my life because it's beautiful. It moves me. It's so sweet. It's kind. That happened here. So I think it was Courtney Long was on your show.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one on Facebook. And I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Beautiful.
A week to 10 days later, you reached out to me.
Hey, be on the show.
Kind of, but it was just like, oh, I didn't say like, oh, Courtney gets all the stuff or,
Yeah.
damn it, how do I get that?
Yeah, it's not fair. Life's not fair.
It was just really simple of like, oh, good for her. This is awesome. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And that happened. I'm on the radio as a featured guest on 1100 KFNX the first Wednesday of every month. And I saw an Instagram live. One of my friends was doing it. And same thing, like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I would love to do that. Phone call rings 2 days later.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I find that just shows up really innocently. Even in New Jersey, there's a draft for the NBA. There's a young kid coming in. He's Polish. I'm Polish. He's supposed to be really, really good. He falls down in a draft for legality reasons. And he's crying. Here's his 18-year-old kid. Here's his empath watching the draft. Like, oh, I feel so bad for this kid. And then my team picks him in the second round. I'm like, oh my God. He gets up. He's pointing to the crowd. The place is going crazy. My heart is just wide open. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And my team got him. This is so exciting.
Dream come true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I played him on my video games.
Yeah.
Like I was emotionally invested into this kid. He gets traded from Marbury, goes to Phoenix. I'm borderline like really annoyed at this.
Oh,
like,
boy.
no, because I had an emotional investment in him.
Yeah.
I move out here on a whim. He's my next door neighbor.
What?
So now I'm sitting courtside. I'm parking my Grand Prix next to the Hummers and tricked out like Bentleys and stuff like that under the stadium.
Oh, cool.
So for like 3 months before he got traded again, I had this really amazing experience.
Wow.
But I also learned that in that world comes a lot of glitz and glam where there's not a whole lot of authenticity also. So I realized at some point, like, this is really fun. And this isn't the world that I want to be in also. It had to come back to a more authentic place versus, hey, look at all this great stuff when behind the scenes it's horrible.
So is that when you retired from the NBA then?
That's when I gave up the dream.
So there are things that we want to accomplish. We have goals. We have dreams. We have things like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. How do you help people in coaching them to say, okay, there's a difference between the ego construct of achieve and, overcome and conquer and be the best. And then there's this spiritual drive that maybe it isn't a comfortable path or a comfortable process. How do you give presence to the difference between the caveman ego and then that spiritual being that we are?
So it's getting in tune. Why are we doing why are we going for what we're going for? And finding that spark of light in there. If it's just for money, okay, let's focus on money per se. And let's see what money brings up to you. What can money bring you? Is money just money? Or does money buy you happiness, freedom, security? What is the money getting you? But if someone wants to go for the MBA, and that's such a crapshoot, you don't know. But let's lean into it. Or even you want to sing on Broadway. Maybe you can't get the audition on Broadway tomorrow. But start singing. Sing in the shower. Sing in front of your friends. Go to a local coffee bar. Start singing. Let's start moving that light inside. Because maybe you're on the way to your audition on Broadway. And maybe you meet somebody in the car who's like, oh, actually, let me hear you sing. Oh my God, my cousin's a record producer. We just never know. So it's not always the final goal. It's where are we on the journey on the way to that final goal? Because how many times in life have we said we're going to do this and then a diversion came in? And then when we're over here, it's like, well, what about this? Like, I don't want that anymore. Because whatever is moving us underneath in that energy is helping guide us along the way too. I feel like we have an internal GPS system. So if we listen to it internally versus externally, it helps with the manifesting aspect, because then it pulls up our like those little cartoon magnets, the little horseshoe. It's like we pull that up, it moves us towards something, while it then moves that situation closer to us.
That's great, yeah.
Because how many times have we heard, be careful what you wish for? Because sometimes we have gotten something that we really, really wanted because we were passionate about it, and it shows up like, oh, that's not what I want. And that's beautiful too, because now you can let that go. It's almost like it's the same thing before. It's like you're taking the rough edges off. You're cleaving parts off. So getting in tune with why you're doing something, what's moving you, what's moving you. If it's connection, there's a million things that people do with connection. If it's that feeling you have when you're singing, maybe you teach singing to children.
Oh, that's good.
So maybe you're not on Broadway, but maybe you're teaching children to go to Broadway. And maybe that's enough for you, because now you're not working at Starbucks to go try and get to Broadway and sing. You're actually singing now full time. And that might be the most beautiful gift you ever received.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities when we allow ourselves to be open for those different things. We get a picture of, it has to be this way, it has to be this thing, but there's other things that it could look like.
Sure.
And when you allow the universe to support you, rather than thinking this is a dark, unsafe place, and it's full of danger, if you're like, no, the universe is this playground, and what can the universe do to support me? It gives you a lot of new opportunities.
It's an empty canvas with lots of paints that are just sitting there waiting to be painted.
Beautiful. I love that analogy.
The other piece, though, is, so someone might say, well, I sing at an open mic once a week and I'm still not fulfilled. Well, start stretching. Take that same feeling you have and keep moving. There will come a point where you get to a spot where like, oh, this is it, or something else is going to help shape into a different direction. So allow yourself to go for something as well. Allow yourself to extend further, because we tend to play it safe a lot out of fear, out of the old stories that we can't do things. Keep stretching in. There'll come a point where, okay, the goal is meeting us or the goal is shifting us.
Your empath ability or your empath nature is something that is kind of a new thing to me, because I've never had that feeling of, I historically in my life, I've never had that like, oh, I know how that person feels. I just haven't had that thought. But I find as I open myself up more in the spirit realm, I begin to think about, well, that person's on a journey. They have a soul that's here to accomplish something. They're a beautiful, bright, star, a part of the godness of us all. And so then I can start to think, I wonder how that would feel. And is that something that you can begin to develop, that empathy?
I think if you're even thinking about it, then the answer is yes.
Oh,
some people may come in preloaded a little bit more sensitive. But, okay, so say I came in and say Michael was still here, there's a bunch of people still here, or Gail's still here. And someone might be like, is the gas on? Like, did the pilot light go out? And someone may say, I smell it now. So maybe different levels of sensitivity, even in any sense that we have. Someone may have keener eyesight. Someone may have keener hearing, but we all have it. So if you're being open to opening the empath ability, you already have it, but now you're just moving some stuff out of the way to get to it. So it's just one. It's just,
That's good. And does that then apply to other giftings, whether it's sensory giftings, psychic giftings, intuitive giftings?
So we have it all.
Okay.
But I love this analogy that I heard years and years ago. We can all play a piano. I can play chopsticks. Maybe you can play Chopin. But I can still sit down and make noise at the piano.
Yeah.
So we have all of them available to us.
I like that, because you could take your whole fist and you could play the piano.
Exactly.
But it's going to be different than if you're playing.
Right. So we usually have one or two gifts that are a little bit more highlighted. But that doesn't mean we don't have the other ones. So beautiful. We still want to pay attention, bring the awareness to the other ones when they do show up.
Wow. That's something I had never thought about. So you have that ability within you, and then you have the opportunity then to develop that sensitivity. Is that kind of the feeling? Or?
I think as you go into it and just open that sensitivity up, you're going to have experience that are going to help highlight that. But again, it's having the awareness, because you may do something and just brush it off. I mean, we all watch baseball games, and why did you put the light hitting shortstop in the ninth inning? Oh, the manager had a gut feeling. It's like, okay, so he had some intuitive hit on something. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like when you see the shift over to the one side, and then sure enough, the guy hits it that way. You're like, well,
Right.
he had a feeling, and those were the probabilities.
My favorite is with football.
Hmm.
So a lot of men are like, that energy stuff is stupid. Who has what quarterback has great pocket awareness? Oh, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Oh, so you mean they get the ball, they're looking this way, but they feel somebody coming from here and they
Yeah.
step forward?
Yeah.
That's okay. But if I feel some energy coming over here, something like that, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing.
I love that.
Yeah, some 350-pounder wants to
Yeah.
cream you. Yeah, it's good to have that
You
awareness in
can
that moment.
Feel that energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go to a concert. You walk in, go to Las Vegas. You just feel all this energy that's coming in.
Mhm. That leads me then to the question of that energy you don't like. That I don't want to say negative
Sure.
or dark or whatever, but there, there's people you're around. You're like, ugh,
Yeah.
I just don't like being around this person.
Sure.
They're negative. They're they make me feel creepy. What's that feel, and what are some things you can do around those energies?
So if I step into that situation, and me stepping in now is very different than me stepping in years ago. Because I just walked in like an emotional sponge, and I would soak up all the dirty water around me along with the clean water. So now I'm doing some work before I get there.
That is a really cool analogy. I want to make sure I get present to that.
Sure.
So as a sponge, you can soak up the dirty water
Yeah.
too. You got to, okay, so you have to be aware of that.
You have to be aware, because we all have friends. My mom and my sister were nurses. They would come home exhausted because you're in a space where, especially in nursing, there's a lot of fear. People who need your help right now. So they're literally throwing their fear on you, and you want to help them. So you're this open, they'd say like a bleeding heart, like you're just open, like, okay. And next thing you know, like, oh, another person's calling because you're just tapped out. So you can put a bubble around yourself. So a bubble is, again, it's all energy. So if you feel energy before I leave my nest, now if I'm in an apartment, that might be the front door of the apartment. If I'm in a house with other people, that might be my bedroom. Wherever I go to recharge, that's what I consider my nest. Before I leave there, I just imagine a bubble of light in front of me. And I take a physical and tangible step into it. And then I go. And what that bubble of light does is just a little bit of energy. It's an intentional piece of energy that's around us. And for many people, they'll hear a knock at the door. And by the time they go in, the person's already in their kitchen. With the bubble of light, they hear the knock at the door. There's a screen door now. They can still feel them. They can smell their breath. But they're not coming in until they're invited in.
It's really good.
Because how many times does someone come to you like, can I tell you about my bad day? And they dump all this stuff on you. And you're like, hey, thanks. And they skip off.
I feel better.
And you're like, ugh.
Get the vomit all over you now.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's that emotional sponge. So for me, it's very much about putting a bubble. And if I forget the bubble, if something comes in, I'm just literally brushing it off. I saw Star Wars Born last night. It gets heavy at a certain moment. I just felt some energy in my heart. I was like, oop, not mine. Let's just move this off right now.
Yeah.
It's easier in the dark though. But if a rabbit is chased by a coyote and the rabbit gets away, you don't see the coyote looking around the corner, right? It just goes about living its life. Because the rabbit shakes it all off. Prey animals shake. You see horses, they shake.
Yeah.
They're shaking the energy through. So I call it do the bunny shake. Jump up and down. If you're in a meeting, put your hand below the desk, shake your hand out. Get some movement to move this energy off of you as well.
That's really good.
So yeah, it's brush, move, bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too much, salt bath at night.
I have heard that's good. Sweet Lady Gail loves to take a salt bath, and it just does have that feeling of just that cleansing.
Yeah, recently I discovered once a week, just have like some Morton salt in the bathroom, take my shower, and shut the water off, and just pour the salt all over my body, almost like I rolled around in the sand at the beach. 15 seconds, then rinse it off.
Yeah, interesting.
And it just clears everything really dramatically.
Huh.
You don't want to do it too often because then you're like digging down into your own energy.
Oh.
You just want to take like the bad frosting off or the frazzled frosting.
And I can see in your industry where you're always talking to people and communicating, you have different energies constantly.
So the other thing I do, which I'm so thankful that this is my setup. If I'm talking to people and someone has that like really heavy duty thing and everyone's like, oh, I'm out, like, oh, I want in, let's go. So when I literally go in and when I'm stepping into their energy, it's like the mast on a ship going through the fog. The mast doesn't take the fog on. It just lets it go through. Because I've had clients scream at me. Oh, not so much about me, but I'm just holding a place for them. And I need to be a rock for them. I need to literally watch that energy just go right by and don't take it on.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some boundary things that you've discovered and experienced, and how do you give people some help on, maybe they're in a relationship that's not a great situation, or their parents are overbearing, or they have kids that are, they feel codependency with. What are some of those things that you can work through?
Learning to say no.
Okay.
Which is for many people the hardest thing in the world. So you have someone who's like, hey, can you help me move? And it's like the people pleaser, the sensitive person will be like, yeah, sure. When you need it. Okay, I'll be there. That person leaves. You're like, oh my God, I got to rearrange my entire schedule now.
Yeah.
Now they're super stressed. They're stressed for this. They're stressed for their own stuff. What you can do is say, I would love to help you. I'm available Wednesday from 5 to 7. If you could do it on that day, I'm all yours. If you can't, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. That's a really beautiful starting point into saying no. Because you're looking at your schedule. If you want to, if you don't, I'm unable to do it that day. And actually, no is a complete sentence. You can just say no. We don't.
No is a complete sentence. Wow. This is a free show, right? You're giving these people information. It's a free show. That's amazing.
But that was one of the hardest things for me. I had someone on my block who was an elderly man. And this is before I moved out here. I was still dealing with my back stuff. My brother was helping him out. There's Mr. Withka, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction. He was 2 or 3 doors down, but many times I did it growing up. And then there was like a 10-year gap. And I went over to see my brother, and he was helping Mr. Withka. And they were having a really beautiful conversation. I came in, and I saw Mr. Withka from I'm an adult now, or as adult as you are, as 20 years old, right? And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, oh, what a beautiful man. Like, I'm so happy, because I love working with people who are older. They have such wisdom and stories. And we're just having this really beautiful conversation. And he's like, okay, guys, see you later. And he starts to go, and he comes in, he's like, oh, are you guys able to move the sofa for me real quick? And the people pleaser in me was like, yeah, sure. Even though my back was a mess. My brother was like, Mr. Withka, let me get to somebody else. My brother's going through, he hurt his back. And I was like, okay. So in my mind, I said, no. He passed away 2 days later.
Oh.
The little kid in me was like, oh my God, I said, this is what happens when I say no to people.
Oh no.
Which is one of the most ridiculous things in the world.
Yeah, but you felt that energy.
Which is what I felt, because it's old stories about not being good enough.
Yeah.
So that new experience, because really, if I look at that totality of the experience, it was this really beautiful, heartfelt conversation I had with this man I hadn't seen in 10 years, who literally lived 300 feet away from me, however far long the plots are, my whole life. And here I am as an adult coming in, seeing him from a completely different place. And his softness is just being a man who's kind of had a beautiful life. And I was like, this is really beautiful, this conversation. So it wasn't just about this little piece of saying no. It took me a moment to kind of have someone walk me through that, like, okay, first off, that's ridiculous. But there's a piece who believes it, so let's come at it from that perspective.
Yeah, so many people have that feeling of not being loved, or that unworthiness, or I'll never be good enough.
Right.
How do you help people through that? Because I think that's a part of a karmic profile a lot of people have when they come to Earth and work through that.
Well, if we're trying to save people or be a rescuer, let's start with ourselves first. And if we put the energy towards ourselves, we're not out trying to save the world, because we don't have it in us to save the world.
Yeah.
So if you overhear somebody, I used to work in the corporate world, and I would hear people. When it came to someone who's in distress, my audio was sky high. I was like, what?
Spidey sense,
big time. And I'd come in, and I'd constantly get all the little like, oh, Mike saved the day, and I feel good about myself. But there came a point where I realized, okay, I'm too worried about everyone else. My stuff here was just a mess. So I can offer, if you guys need me, let me know, and then step back. If they need me, they'll come to me. That's the first step. If they come to me, that doesn't mean I have to do it. I can still say no. But it's very different than me running around looking for every kitten in every tree all over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If there's somebody, okay, maybe I can't help you, but maybe I know somebody you can. It's taking some ownership of where am I at in the moment as well. And I encourage my clients to start saying no.
Yeah.
Say no once a day. Start with something small.
That's great.
But just start in the habit of saying no. Because then you get a new perspective on what it is to say yes. So when you can say yes, you come in with a new, renewed energy. You want to help this person. Maybe this person's in need. Maybe you're called to help them. Same thing with clients. If somebody calls and maybe they can't afford, okay. Sometimes you're like, oh, no, I need to help this person. Maybe not everybody. Because it's that same thing as you need to put food on the table. You need to take care of yourself. Yeah. You may have bills to pay. You have to make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that self-care is so important.
So important. Yeah. But the more you take care of yourself, the more then you can help people.
Yeah.
It's kind of ass backwards for everybody.
It is, because a lot of people, they feel like, well, if I just give to others, and
Sure.
especially in that religious narrative,
Yes.
it's better to give than to receive. And, there's no greater love than you lay down your life for another. And so
Sure.
you're always told to consider other people better than yourself. Not that you should boast because you're unworthy, but whatever that religious narrative is. And a lot of times we're given this programming that I shouldn't try to do something for myself. Right. And we think there's a nobility in letting ourselves not be taken care of so we can help the family, help the kids, or whatever that thing is.
Well, it's better to give to receive. There's truth in that. Just put yourself first in line.
Yeah.
So give to yourself.
Yeah.
So then you could have more to give to everyone.
Well, I've learned that you can't give if you don't have anything to give out of.
No, because then if you do, it's like squeezing that sponge. Then you're just going to be sitting on the ground, tapped out.
Yeah.
And they may need you more than just one day. Maybe they need you for a week and you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
If you start building yourself up, then you can start giving out. And giving out, you might be called to give out to one person who then can give out to 1,000 people. It changes the paradigm a little bit.
Yeah. So there's that building, that inward building up that people need to do. They reach out to you. They're saying, Mike, I need some help. What can I do? How do you start when you work with someone? I mean, is there an evaluation? Is that you find out what their need? I mean, what is that process like when somebody reaches out to you?
So I might talk to them on the phone for a few minutes first, just get an understanding of what they're trying to do. Then we'll set an appointment. And usually when I hang up the phone, things are already happening.
Just starting to get hits already.
I'm already getting hits on things. Then we'll sit down, and the first thing I want to know is what's going on that day. Let's just unwind a little bit. So it's not always the thing that happened. So let's talk about the story to create this feeling, which has happened many times before. The latest thing is not the root cause. The latest thing is the latest hitting on the root cause. So let's use the latest thing to create that feeling, and then let's drop the story and let's go right to the root cause. Because you might say, my boyfriend did this or something. It's like, well, have you had other boyfriends do that?
That same cycle.
So it's not this guy then, right? Yeah. He's just doing it now.
That's so good.
So tell me what he does. Okay, and you get, I feel it here, I feel it here. Great, let's let him go. Goodbye, thanks for helping out. Let's go right down. And that's where we'll step into the energy. That's where we'll kind of do some hypno. We'll do imagery, inner child work. Sometimes it's just quiet. So asking a lot of questions and listening. And it's not just listening to the words, it's listening to the space between the words. Because someone will say, if I said, hey, David, tell me your story, you're going to tell me this story that you've probably told a million times. It may not be exactly the same, but you can hit all the same beats. Yeah. It's going to come out in a rhythm.
Got that elevator pitch.
Exactly.
And if we like victimhood, we know how to hook you in.
Exactly. Now, as you're talking, and if I'm just quiet listening, there's going to come a point many times where as you're done talking, something else is going to dribble out of your mouth. It's like, that's cool. What is this thing?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I said that? You said this too. So that's why it's really great when you're working with people to shut your mouth sometimes too. So if I'm talking to someone, they'll tell me their story, and if I just sit there and look at them or just be with them, many times people get uncomfortable with the silence and they'll start filling it with truth.
Oh, wow,
so
man.
Sometimes it's
just like an insider view on how to help people when you're listening, just sit back and they're like, you're not talking. So then they tell you another thing that's a truth that you're trying to help them with.
And I learned this is a truth that kind of showed up to me months and months ago. And I realized how true it is. There was some piece of me who walked around in a world that I didn't feel was safe. Or, I showed it here, everything's good. So my situation, my recipe that I'm called to give to the world is to create a safe space for people. So even when I'm being quiet, it's the safest, most quietest space that I could offer them. So there's no judgments coming. It's just surrendering to the space, but we got you here. I would love for people to have a space where they could fall apart and the space to build them back up in the same place. That's the whole intention.
Wow, man. So those core wounds that people come in with and those things, you're able to help them identify, well, here's some stuff, and then you're able to put a treatment plan together, if you will.
Yeah, sometimes there's, okay. Yes, the answer to that is yes. Sometimes a session is in and of itself, but a lot of tools come in as well. And I always tell the people I'm working with, I'm going to tell you what the tools are. You don't have to remember them. I'll write them down and email them to you. Because I want them to be present. I want them to be like, wait, what was that again? I want 100% present, because I'm going to be 100% present with you. Let's just be. And I'm just offering them what my whole life I wanted. That's what we're doing. We're just giving the world what we craved at some level too.
Yeah, I like that how you're that soul journey, that spiritual path that we're all on, even if you don't acknowledge it or even if you don't identify it as a spiritual path, we're all on a spiritual path. There's something our soul wants to do here and to encourage. And you're able to give people the presence to say, well, yes, you have these problems, and yes, but you don't empower them to be victims. You empower them to come out of victimhood. And that's something I've really learned in this 2018 year, is coming out of that energy of somebody else did something to me. And it's like, no, I can put myself in a place to be empowered, and I don't have to be a victim of those circumstances.
And if you're feeling victimhood, have a moment. Scream, kick, have that moment.
Yeah.
Clear that energy off. Because when we do the passive-aggressive victimhood, or we're constantly seeking validation from somebody else who feels a victim too, we're going to keep playing that same story. But if we quickly try to frost the moldy cake,
oh God, that's amazing.
That's not helpful either.
It's a free show, man. This is amazing. You're dropping truth bombs.
But it's the truth, though.
Frosting on a moldy cake.
Let's actually go in and have the cake. If we have to eat the cake in the moment, great. Let's move the cake through us.
Yeah, I've had mold in my mouth. It doesn't matter what frosting you put on it. It's disgusting.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful analogy
Thank you.
to allow yourself to understand that.
So the more we can, if you're angry, be angry. Have a moment. But have a moment fully. And that may not be yelling and throwing something at somebody.
Yeah.
You can say, excuse me, I'm angry, and step back. Sometimes we need to step into our boundaries. But sometimes we just need to excuse ourselves and go kick rocks or something. Have it. And when you're done, like, okay, am I done? Throw 2 or 3 more rocks. Let's literally just clear it out. Because now when you step into something, and maybe it's the same situation a month later, you're not coming in with this piggy bank full of old anger. You're coming in, you say, you know what, that doesn't work for me anymore. And now it's not going into your piggy bank. Your piggy bank is clear. So you're allowing, if someone feels a victimhood, let them have a moment. And let's just, okay, let's tell me all the victimhood you got.
Let's get it out.
Are you good right now? Okay, let's move forward from this point now. It's powerful.
It's cathartic. It makes you feel, at least I got to be heard, and he understands my pain.
Right.
And it's not to delegitimize. Yes, there's pain in this life.
But if you're also opening that up, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you're opening that up, you're also going to zoom right past the story that you're talking about in the moment.
Yep.
Because the pain is deeper than the current story.
And so you're like, well, what's that thing? What's the root of that cause? Yeah. You had talked about as a kid being a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I remember battling someone on the mat. And I would say you don't know someone until you've fought them or you've wrestled with them in this combative my will against your will. And I remember being the exact same weight and the exact same strength as an opponent and going, oh my God, one of us is going to win this by just a fraction.
Sure.
And, so I remember those tipping points. I imagine when you get into doing work with people, they feel like they're not combating you, but they're combating those issues, and they feel like they've been through the struggle. I bet there's this really close bond that they've developed. I imagine that really you're a safe space for people, and they feel like they could tell you and you can help them.
Sure.
I imagine that's a lot of solace and safety for people, because when you've been through the battle with someone, you really build that camaraderie.
Plus, you see their true light. They may not see it themselves.
So you can say, "Here's a mirror. You look good." Yeah.
Actually, just a recent client got them off table. Said, "Quick, go over to the mirror," and they went in, and their eyes were just bright. And said, "Look at that person." I did a post today about the rain in Arizona. It rained yesterday. Now it's just the most beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
And how when it rains here in Arizona, there's clearing. So why not when we cry and move our water? How do we feel after? Do we feel clear again? It's important to go to the mirror and look past the puffy eyes and look deeper than the surface level, and look down into that light that is suddenly having this moment of expansion. Because even in pain and despair, when we cry and we sob, and maybe we lost somebody and we're just really scared and pain, when we start crying and sobbing, somewhere in there's a piece of our soul that's like, hey, it's going to be okay. And you feel it when you move all that energy off of you. Because it's the same thing as the bunny shake. You're giving your body a chance to just shed and move stuff through you.
Yeah.
And it's a biological response. We're supposed to cry.
Well, we are emotional bodies, and those emotions are connect with our physical bodies, as you've demonstrated in your life with, aches and pains that you had to go through.
Yes.
When you're dealing with somebody and you recognize a physical pain tied to an emotion, is that something you're able to key in on and give some insight with?
So, yes. I have some people who will say, like, I'm a medical intuitive. I haven't quite grasped that one myself, because there's a thought process of a medical intuitive say, oh, I can see here's your block and stuff. For me, that's not it. But when I go into someone, I kind of know where to put my hand, but also when they tell me their story, I'm quickly aware of what the emotions are behind it and where they're being held in the body. So it's coming into, okay, here's the emotions. The reason your back hurts, here's the reason your back hurts. Does this ever happen to you? Yeah, how do you know that? Well, your body's telling me right now.
Yeah, that's good. There's a book that Sweet Lady Gail has. It's about what the things that your body's doing and trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And having had a little bit of that, I was recently talking to someone and he was telling me that, boy, he had sciatica pain and it was shooting down his leg and he was just having all these pains. And then he was sharing with me how he was at his job and he felt like he was being micromanaged. I said, have you ever thought that there's a possibility that your physical pain could be tied to your emotional pain of feeling like you don't have freedom and you feel restricted? And he looked at me, he goes, that's not true. I'm just sitting at a desk. And so I tried it again. Do you think that there's a physical thing that's being related to an emotional thing? Because we're energetic bodies. And so again, he comes out, no, it's just because I'm sitting at my desk. So I tried it one more time because I felt this intuitive hit going, he really needs to realize that this pain in his body is from this thing. And so I said, well, Gail's been reading the book and I just felt like, I feel like your lack of freedom, you're feeling like you're restricted as part of this thing. And he started thinking about it. He goes, oh my God, you're totally right. And I came back home and I flipped the book open and I had Gail find that space and she goes, that's exactly what it means. That sciatica pain was that he wasn't feeling freedom. He was feeling restricted.
Right.
And so it made me feel kind of good to have that intuitive hit because that's part of that I'm trying to develop.
Yeah, good feel.
But it made me realize that there's things that we hold on, these energies in our bodies, these pains, that we need to make sure this emotional being is allowed to be understood and expressed.
When I'm talking to someone who is a skeptic or has never heard of this possibility, so like, oh, okay. When you get stressed, your neck hurts, right? Or your shoulders hurt. It's like, yeah. It's like, well, is it possible that may happen in other parts of your body? You're nervous about something, your stomach gets upset. Like, there's things that we all know that already happens, but we're just going a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Someone has colon cancer, maybe they don't release their emotions.
Yeah.
Just there's things, anger.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like release.
This beautiful body that we have. And as an empathic person, I imagine that you feel a lot of those energies.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And actually, this has been a really interesting year for me. So I've lost a lot of people in my life this past year. I've lost 7 people close to me.
Like death, you mean?
Death.
Oh, boy.
My dad, a bunch of uncles. I studied with a Native American elder for a while. She had passed away. So 7 people who were in a patriarchal and matriarchal role for myself. I felt so much pressure in my lungs. Lungs are grief. And I did stuff I needed to do, but sometimes you jump back out and then, oh my God, someone else passed away.
Oh, boy.
And I realized I was just holding on to so much. Because when it just keeps coming in, there's a level of, I had 7 people die. If they all died in a car accident, that'd really be tragic. But it's just one big wobble.
That was one event,
Right. But every 6 weeks, I was getting a text or a call that someone else passed away.
Man.
It's just, there's a point like, do I even lift my head up?
Yeah.
So as I was doing the work through each one, I wasn't able to fully go through each one, and then they were getting compounded.
Oh, boy.
So it took me a while after to then just stop, sit, and just listen to my body.
Yeah.
It's really good just to sit down.
You told everybody no more dying for a while, right? So, stop it. I can't deal with this.
Pretty much did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a real dear friend that the same thing had happened to her where there was multiple deaths in the family and she was just like, enough. Stop dying. I can't deal with the pain. Yeah.
The beauty of it though, my uncle died. 2 weeks later, my dad died. A week later, his older brother died. They were all Marines. They were all 90, 86, 82. I went back east for the funeral. And here we all going through our own separate pains together. I could be there for you. Okay, now I need someone there for me. You can be there. It was just really beautiful coming together, a family. Through the tragedy, you just saw everyone rise. And you rose when you could, and then you sat when you couldn't, and someone else would help lift you up. It was so stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
With the 9/11 anniversary that we just had, I was there right across the water.
Oh, wow.
So when I think of that time, I think of 9/12, 9/13, 9/14.
Yeah.
I see everyone coming together. Why does it take such tragedy for this to happen? Why can't this happen all the time where we come together?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just this horrific thing. Yes, it was horrific and painful. I knew people who lost people, but I saw millions of people coming together. Like, it didn't matter what color you were, or nationality or religion. Everyone just pitched in together. Like, it's available to us. So the more we pitch in to ourselves, that creates this really beautiful world. And when you start to take care of yourself for yourself, you take care of the world. Yeah. So when my world bumps into you, there's a ripple effect that we create this beautiful connection. And then as you go, it just starts rippling. But if I'm really pissed off and I bump into you and you're pissed off, now that's going to ripple out to other people.
Yep.
If we're coming together, taking care of ourselves, falling in love with ourselves, nurturing ourselves, my bubble is going to bump into your bubble. It's going to bring some of the loving energy up to you. It's going to create this really ripple effect. Mm-hmm. We have it in us. Yeah. I get emotional over it because we have it in us. It's really, we all have the same heart. We have 99.9% of the same DNA. Yep. Let's just go do it. Yep. Let's just show up the best we can for ourselves. And when we take care of ourselves, we're taking care of ourselves for everybody else at the same time. Beautiful. That's why we need to put ourselves first. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Two things. I like to end the show with the guest telling me if there's one thing you took away from this episode. If there's one thing I want people to know, it's this thing. And then as a secondary thing, would you give us kind of some grounding guided imagery for those people that are just going through stress, they're going through some frustrations. So if you would do that. So tell me that, what is that thing you want people to walk away with? And then let's just move into that grounding space.
Just show up. You already are enough as you are. There's a piece of you inside that is complete. It's your core value and essence of your spirit and your soul of who you are here to guide you into the world to have this experience to fully express yourself. So just show up as you are. You already are enough. And if you have an experience where you don't feel enough, that's the most important experience you need to have on that day. So just show up.
Beautiful.
Just trust yourself and just show up.
Yeah. Awesome. And if you would, for the folks, myself included, that we get caught up in the little things in life and we just feel a little frustrated, and what are some techniques, what are some things we can do, and give us maybe that peaceable guided space where we just let it go.
I was driving over here and I wasn't nervous, but it was a different thing. Cool, I had some anxiousness, but I was excited. So I put on some music, which is just more very grounding, relaxing music.
Little Whitesnake.
A little Whitesnake, right? Almost, but I was like,
here I go again on my own.
There's an earlier version of that. It's very different. I'll have to send it over to you. But I realized, wait, this isn't where I'm at. I want to get into my body and just be present, because we can all be floating around somewhere. But let's come down to the earth. Let's bring what we learn up here down to the earth so we impact change. So I was like, so I put on some Janet Jackson song, Never Again or something. It's just a little, I was just in a car and I was just moving. Let's get into our body. Let's bring some energy into it. It's not always about escaping out somewhere or always going within. Go within and then shake it up a little bit. Bring some fun. Life doesn't have to be so serious. Put some happy music on or something that makes you feel joyful and start moving around. Just move. I got into some ecstatic dance this past 2 years and just moving the body. It's like that bunny shake I was talking about before. But now you're doing it consciously with some music that's moving you. Just get in and move. Go on the grass, lean up against a tree, touch a house plant, connect with something that's bigger than us. Something that reaches for the sky, but also down in the ground. Just connect to those things around you. Always take a deep breath. You can never go wrong with taking a deep breath. I'll take a deep breath, I'll put my hand on my heart. Hold. Sometimes it's Make it real. Let's be real. It's a real world. We got to show up. It's time to show up. Let's not just float off somewhere. Let's come down here and show up.
Beautiful. So we're gonna close out. At the beginning, before we started filming, you did a grounding thing.
Sure.
I'm gonna have you do something like that, and you guys are gonna love this. It's just a peaceable space to be, and Michael Anthony's gonna guide us through. Give presence to your website again.
Sure, it's the Spiritual Health Coach. I'm also on Instagram as Michael Anthony Coach. I'm doing a lot more on that these days. I'm really enjoying that experience. The videos, you have a minute. I'm much of a slower lean into kind of things.
It takes you 5 videos to get your point.
Right, so I'm learning, there's a piece of it that's actually offering me an opportunity to be more concise and come in and just use my Jersey background, get in and then get out. Come in quicker, faster, and move. So it was a challenge at first, but it's an opportunity. So when challenges come in, lean into them, see what shows up, see what part of you can open up and unleash and learn about yourself. It's good stuff.
Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna let you take it.
Okay. So I like to have everyone just put their hands on your knees, your thighs, and just move them around. Just make a connection. And now just take a nice deep breath. Breathe in through your nose or your mouth if you have to. It's okay. Come in. If you can, hold for a second, and then just. We're gonna do one more of those in a second. And now actually just move around your seat a little bit. Just bring some movement in. Just come in. Almost like either a snake or just an animal. You're getting intimate with your chair. If you're standing, that's okay too. Now take a deep breath in, and when you breathe in, you're gonna hold it for a moment. And as you hold it at the top, really move your body a little bit. Move your body, and then make a sound and let it go out. Yeah, just come in. One more. In, move your feet against the ground. Breathe out. Clap. Back to your legs. Clap. Come to your heart space. You can open your eyes while you're in this space and just look around. We're still here. We're here for a reason. Why not show up?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
You're welcome. It was awesome.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.